Have you ever paused, really paused, and wondered why you are here right now? Listening to these words, life has a way of placing us in moments that feel ordinary, yet beneath the surface, something extraordinary is at work. The universe doesn't always send us explanations wrapped in logic or reasoning. Sometimes, it simply offers a presence, a frequency, a quiet nudge that reaches the depth of your being. You see, this isn't random. It isn't an accident of timing or an algorithm placing this message before your eyes. What's happening here is resonance. Your soul has reached a vibration, a clarity, that makes you ready to hear this. It's as though there's a cosmic appointment written long before this day, waiting for you to arrive. And here you are, not as a seeker chasing an answer, but as the answer itself, remembering what has always been true. I want you to feel into that for a moment. Imagine a river. For years, it might have struggled against rocks, forcing itself through narrow spaces, groping for direction. And then, suddenly, it stops fighting. It simply flows. And in that surrender, it discovers that every twist, every bend, was already guiding it toward the ocean. That's what awakening feels like. It is not about becoming someone new or worthy. It's about realizing you've always been the current of the river itself. An eternal consciousness moving through this temporary human form. There's a reason this message has reached you. You've walked through valleys of doubt, through nights when silence felt endless, through days where nothing seemed to make sense. And yet, every one of those experiences has shaped you, carved you, prepared you. The universe has been molding you the way fire tempers steel. Those hardships weren't punishments. They were proofs of readiness. They were tests not of faith alone, but of your ability to let go of the old and allow something greater to move through you. And now, here you sit, perhaps with quiet curiosity, perhaps with a deep hunger you cannot explain. That hunger is not weakness. It is recognition, your cells, your very being. Remember something beyond the noise of daily life. They remember the truth that consciousness is not something you earn. It is what you are. You don't climb your way up to it. You peel away the veils that kept you from seeing it. Think of it like sunlight, hidden behind thick clouds. The sun has never left. It has never diminished. It has simply been obscured. And when the sky clears, you don't create the sun. You only witness what has always been burning. That's the recognition happening in you now. This is why coincidences no longer feel like coincidences. You think of someone and they call. The answer to a problem comes in a dream. Or a stranger says, a sentence that feels like it was meant just for you. These are not accidents. They are the language of the universe, responding to the frequency you now carry. The more you align, the more the world around you bends to meet that alignment. Life itself begins to mirror back the truth that your consciousness has shifted. And so, the question is not whether you are worthy. The question is whether you are willing to stop pretending you are less than what you are. Because when you stop pretending, when you release the grip of the small self, something miraculous happens. You begin to remember that you are not the drop struggling to find the ocean. You are the ocean, appearing as a drop, infinite and complete. I say this not to elevate you above others, but to remind you of the unity beneath all appearances. Every soul carries this truth, though not everyone is ready to hear it. Today, you are. That readiness is why you are here. Why these words resonate. It is the echo of a deeper voice within you, saying, "This is who I've always been." You don't need to run faster or strive harder. You don't need to force the mind to control what is beyond its reach. Instead, you are invited into stillness, into surrender, into the quiet recognition that the very awareness listening right now is the eternal essence you've been searching for. And in that stillness, life begins to reorder itself. Struggles soften, not because the world outside has changed, but because your perception has shifted. You are no longer wrestling with shadows. You are seeing through them. You realize that peace was never in the future. It was always here, waiting for you to notice. So I ask you to take a breath. Right here, right now. Feel it, not just as air filling your lungs, but as the universe breathing through you. That breath is proof. Proof that you are not separate. Proof that you are part of a greater rhythm unfolding perfectly. This is not the journey of becoming. This is the journey of remembering. And as you remember, the question fades. You no longer ask, "Who am I supposed to be?" Instead, you know you are the awareness itself. Infinite, timeless, expressing through the beautiful disguise of your human life. And perhaps the greatest liberation of all is this: you don't have to reach for it anymore. You only have to allow it. 1. The power of surrender. There comes a point in life when you realize how exhausting it is to keep everything under your control. We are taught from childhood that if we plan enough, think enough, push hard enough, we can shape life into what we want. And so, we calculate, we predict, we tighten our grip on outcomes, as though clenching our fists could stop the river from flowing in its own direction. But control is an illusion. You already know this. You've lived long enough to see that life has its own rhythm, its own timing, its own mysterious ways of unfolding. Sometimes the harder you try to force something, the further it drifts away. And then, paradoxically, when you finally loosen your grip, when you stop wrestling with the current, what you were longing for finds its way to you. Surrender is not defeat. That's what many fear. They think if they stop pushing, they'll fall behind. They'll lose everything they've built. But surrender is not about quitting. It's about trust. It is the quiet recognition that life knows the way better than your anxious mind ever could. Think of a bird in flight. It does not flap in panic every second. It rides the currents of air, allowing invisible streams to carry it further than sheer effort ever could. That is surrender, not giving up on the destination, but allowing the invisible hands of the universe to guide you there. I've walked through seasons of my life where I held on too tightly. Relationships I tried to fix. Plans I tried to control. Outcomes I thought I could engineer. The tighter I held, the more life slipped through my fingers, and in the end, I was left weary, empty, and still without the peace I craved. It wasn't until I let go, until I stopped demanding that life fit the mold I designed, that something extraordinary happened. Things began to align. Opportunities I had chased in vain appeared naturally. Healing I thought impossible came without force. What I could not fix through striving began to mend itself. Surrender is not passive. It is not apathy. It is the most active form of allowing. It takes courage to stand in the middle of uncertainty and say, "I don't need to control this. I trust the unfolding." That's not weakness. That's strength of the deepest kind. It is the kind of strength that comes from knowing you are not alone in carrying life. Life itself is carrying you. When you surrender, you stop swimming upstream against a current that was never meant to be fought. You begin to float. And in that floating, you discover a hidden intelligence guiding the waters. Suddenly, the path that once felt heavy begins to open with surprising ease. Have you noticed that? The moment you release your frantic need to figure everything out, solutions often appear on their own. The phone rings with news that shifts everything. An old friend reaches out with exactly what you need. A door opens where yesterday there was only a wall. That is not coincidence. That is life responding to your surrender. The mind resists this. It whispers, "If I don't control it, who will? If I don't plan every step, what will happen?" But beneath that fear lies a greater truth. Life has been taking care of you all along. Even in your darkest hours, something kept you breathing. Something carried you through. That same force will continue to guide you, if you let it. Surrender is the bridge between effort and grace. Effort has its place. Of course it does. You work, you act, and you choose. But there comes a point where effort turns into strain, where striving becomes suffering. That is when surrender calls. It whispers, "Lay it down. You've done enough. Let life do the rest." Imagine planting a seed in the ground. You water it. You give it sunlight. You tend the soil. But then, you must let go. You cannot tug on the roots to make it grow faster. You cannot open the soil every day in impatience. Growth happens in the unseen, in the dark, in the mystery. Surrender is trusting that process, even when you cannot see it. The same is true for your life. You've planted seeds with your intentions, your choices, your prayers. You've done the work. Now, can you step back and trust the unseen? Can you allow the roots to grow before the blossom appears? What if the very thing you are chasing is waiting for you? Not when you grasp harder, but when you release. Not when you demand, but when you allow. What if surrender is the shortest distance between your longing and its fulfillment? I know surrender isn't easy. It goes against everything we've been taught. But look closely. Hasn't life already shown you moments where letting go brought peace? Where stopping the fight brought freedom? Maybe it was forgiving someone you held anger toward. Maybe it was accepting a situation you couldn't change. Maybe it was finally resting after years of carrying burdens too heavy. That relief, that deep exhale, that is the gift of surrender. And here's the most beautiful part. When you surrender, you make space. Space for life to surprise you. Space for love to reach you. Space for peace to finally settle into your bones. The universe fills that space with things far greater than anything your mind could have forced into being. So perhaps the question is not, how can I control more, but where can I let go today? Perhaps your real power is not in the clenching of your fist, but in the opening of your hand. And when you open that hand, when you soften into trust, you'll find that surrender is not the end of effort. It is the beginning of alignment. It is the place where you stop dragging yourself through life and begin to be carried by it. 2. The signs of awakening. There comes a time in life when the world around you begins to feel different, almost as though it is whispering to you in a new language. You start to notice little things that others dismiss. A thought of someone arises, and suddenly the phone rings with their voice on the other end. You wrestle with a problem for days. And then in the stillness of a quiet morning, the answer arrives fully formed, as if it had been waiting all along. Or in the silence of your dreams, you find yourself in classrooms you never entered, guided by teachers you never met in waking life. And yet their lessons feel more real than anything a book could offer. Most people would call these things coincidences, imagination, tricks of the mind. But deep down, you know better. These are not illusions. They are signs, gentle, persistent signs, that something in you has shifted, that your awareness has tuned itself to a different frequency. You are beginning to live in what can only be called the rhythm of synchronicity, the harmony of alignment. Awakening does not always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it begins with the smallest ripple, a strange sense of peace in the middle of chaos. A moment of clarity, when everything seemed foggy, just before. You may feel it in the way time bends around you, in the way certain conversations find their way to your ears at exactly the right moment. These are not random. They are evidence that your inner frequency is starting to resonate with the deeper intelligence of life itself. I remember seasons in my own journey where the signs came one after another, and still, I doubted them. I brushed them off, convinced they were chance, afraid of looking foolish for believing otherwise. But the signs never stopped. They grew louder, clearer, impossible to ignore. Looking back, I see that they were the universe's way of saying, "You are ready. Pay attention." That is what awakening feels like. It is the recognition that life is no longer something happening to you, but through you, with you, as you. The outer world begins to mirror your inner shifts. What you once considered accidents now reveal themselves as guidance. And what once felt like chaos starts to make sense, like pieces of a puzzle finally clicking into place. Think of it this way. You are a radio, always capable of receiving, but until now, perhaps tuned to static. And then, slowly, you adjust the dial. At first, the sound is faint, unclear, but as you keep listening, the station comes in sharp, steady, undeniable. Awakening is simply tuning into the station that was always broadcasting the frequency of alignment, of clarity, of truth. Dreams are one of the clearest signs. They stop being random fragments and begin to feel like journeys. In dreams, you might meet guides, revisit places you've never been, or receive messages that linger with you long after you wake. These dreams are classrooms of the soul, lessons written not on paper, but on the fabric of your being. They remind you that consciousness is far greater than the limits of waking reality, that you are always learning, always expanding, even in sleep. Another sign is the feeling of being carried. Situations that once felt impossible begin to resolve in ways you could not have designed. People show up in your life at the exact moment you need them. A book falls into your hands. A sentence in a conversation strikes you like lightning. And you know, with a certainty beyond reason, that it was meant for you. These are awakenings disguised as ordinary life. Awakening can also be felt in your body. Perhaps you've noticed your intuition sharpening. You sense things before they happen. You feel the weight of someone's emotions before they speak. You no longer rely solely on logic, because something deeper, quieter, more trustworthy has begun to guide you. This is not magic. It is remembrance. You are remembering that your body is a finely tuned instrument, always resonating with the energy around you, always communicating truths the mind cannot yet grasp. The signs are not always comfortable. Sometimes they unsettle you. They stretch your understanding. They ask you to release old beliefs. And that discomfort itself is a sign. It means you are growing beyond the familiar, beyond the narrow walls of what you thought reality was. Do not mistake the unease for danger. It is simply the cracking open of a shell that no longer fits. If you are experiencing these signs, know that you are not losing your grip on reality. You are finding a deeper reality. The coincidences, the dreams, the guidance, they are not proof that you are imagining things. They are proof that you are finally seeing clearly. For years, life has been speaking to you in this way. The difference is that now, you are awake enough to notice. And here is the most tender truth. Awakening is not about escaping life. It is about inhabiting it more fully. It is about realizing that every interaction, every synchronicity, every dream is part of a larger conversation between you and the universe. You are not a stranger here, stumbling in the dark. You are a participant in the grand dance of consciousness, finally aware of the music playing. So when the signs come, and they will, welcome them. Smile when the coincidence happens. Listen when the quiet voice inside offers you direction. Write down the dreams that feel like lessons. Trust the flow that brings the right people to your path at the right time. These are the universe's way of affirming, yes, you are awakening. Yes, you are ready. And in time, you will no longer see them as signs at all. They will become your way of life. As natural as breathing, you will walk in synchronicity, live in alignment, and rest in the deep, knowing that you are exactly where you are meant to be. 3. Time is no longer linear. There comes a moment in awakening when you begin to see time differently. For so long, we have been trained to believe that time is a straight line, a beginning, a middle, and an end. We measure it by the clock on the wall, by the birthdays that pass, by the wrinkles on our skin. We call it past, present, future, as though they were separate countries. We travel through one by one. But when awareness deepens, when your consciousness opens, something remarkable happens. Time begins to soften. It no longer feels like a rigid line you are marching along. Instead, it reveals itself as layers of waves, all present, all alive, right here, in this single moment. You may have already felt this. There are minutes that seem to stretch into eternity. A conversation with someone you love. A sunset that holds you so still, it feels endless. And then there are whole days, weeks even, that vanish like smoke, slipping through your fingers before you realize they were here. This is not your imagination. This is the beginning of perceiving time not as the clock dictates, but as consciousness truly experiences it in expanded awareness. The past is not gone. The future is not yet to come. They both live inside this now. Think about it when a memory arises. Where is it happening? Not in the past, but here, in your present mind. When a vision of tomorrow comes, where is it still here? Appearing in the canvas of this very moment. The past, the present, the future. They are not strangers. They are threads of one fabric, woven together in the eternal now. I have felt this deeply in my own life. There were nights of suffering that seemed to last forever. Minutes, crawling like years, teaching me patience. I did not want to learn. And there were moments of joy so full, so luminous, that hours passed like the blink of an eye. Both are signs of the same truth. Time is not fixed. It bends to the quality of our presence, to the depth of our awareness. When you are caught in anxiety, time feels heavy, unbearable. Each second drags under the weight of fear. But when you are aligned, when you are surrendered, time becomes fluid. It dances with you, expands when you need space, contracts when you are lost in flow. Einstein once spoke of time as relative. But what he described in physics is something you can feel in your soul. Time is not the master of consciousness. Consciousness is the field in which time appears. This realization brings a quiet freedom. You no longer live as a prisoner of the clock, racing from deadline to deadline, terrified of running out. Instead, you begin to sense the eternity within each moment. You discover that one breath, fully lived, we can hold more meaning than years lived in unconscious haste. Think of a song. Each note arises, lingers, fades, and yet the whole melody is contained within the music all at once. Time is like that. The past notes are not gone. The future notes are already waiting. And the beauty of the song is that it all belongs to the same unfolding. When you step into expanded awareness, life feels like that melody. Continuous, complete, eternal. This is why moments of stillness are so powerful. When you pause, when you stop running after the next hour, or replaying the last one, you fall into the spaciousness of the now. And in that space, you may catch a glimpse of your own eternity. You realize you are not just the traveler moving through time. You are the field in which time itself flows. It is a humbling awareness, but also liberating, because once you taste it, fear begins to dissolve. What is there to fear if time is not something that can truly be lost? Death itself begins to feel different. Not an end, but a shift of perspective. Another ripple in the same eternal ocean. The future becomes less about grasping and more about allowing. The past stops being a chain and becomes a teacher, always accessible, always present as memory and wisdom in the now. I know this may sound abstract, but you've already lived it. Remember the time you were so immersed in something you loved. A painting, a walk in nature, holding the hand of someone dear. That time disappeared. That was eternity touching you, showing you what has always been true. You were never bound by the clock. You were never trapped in linear time. That was just the surface illusion. Living from this awareness does not mean ignoring the calendar or abandoning your responsibilities. It means holding them more lightly. It means moving through life with the quiet, knowing that beneath the ticking of the seconds lies an ocean of timelessness. You can still honor appointments, pay bills, care for your family, but you do so with the wisdom that none of it diminishes the eternal presence you truly are. And here is the gentle miracle when you live this way. Life itself feels more spacious. You stop rushing because you realize there is nowhere to get to. You stop clinging to the past because it has never left you. You stop fearing the future because in truth, it is already here, folded gently inside the now, waiting for you to open it. Time is no longer your cage. It is your canvas. And on this canvas, you are free to paint with awareness, to move with peace, to live not as a victim of minutes and hours, but as the eternal presence through which time itself flows. 4. The meaning of being chosen. There comes a point when you realize that the message reaching you is not meant only for your private comfort. It is not just here to soothe your wounds or give you hope in moments of despair. It is larger than that. It is an invitation to step into a role you may not have expected, the role of a vessel, a transmitter, a light. To be chosen does not mean you are better than others or elevated above them. It does not mean you were plucked out of the crowd as special while others were forgotten. No, the truth is more humble and more beautiful. To be chosen means you have reached a place in your journey where your heart is open enough, your awareness steady enough, for the universe to flow through you. It means you have become available for life, to use you as a channel of something greater than yourself. Think of a lamp in a darkened room. The lamp does not create the electricity. It does not generate the current. Its only role is to be clear enough, open enough, that when the switch is turned, light can pass through it. You are that lamp. The electricity is already here. Call it love. Call it consciousness. Call it the eternal pulse of the universe. To be chosen simply means you are willing to let that light shine through you without covering it, without dimming it, without claiming it as your own. For many years, you may have felt like a seeker, always looking for the next truth, the next book, the next teacher, the next answer. Seeking is an important part of the path, but there comes a time when the seeking quiets and the realizing begins. You are no longer just someone reaching out to grasp the light. You are the one through whom the light shines. The universe does not need more restless seekers. It needs steady lights. It needs people who, by their very being, remind others of what they have always been. Perhaps you doubt this. Perhaps you feel too ordinary, too flawed, too unworthy to be a channel of something divine. I understand. I have felt that way too. I have wondered how the same hands that carried mistakes could ever carry the sacred. And yet, again and again, life has shown me, it is often the cracked vessels that let the most light through. It is not perfection that qualifies you. It is your willingness, your openness, your choice to stop hiding and let the current flow. Being chosen is not about carrying the world on your shoulders. It is not about saving anyone. It is about alignment. When you stand in your own truth, when you live with presence and integrity, that alignment radiates. Others feel it without you needing to say a word. Children relax in your presence. Strangers share their burdens with you. People sense something steady, something safe, something luminous in you. That is the meaning of being chosen, not to preach, but to embody, not to declare, but to live. I think of it like a candle, lighting another candle. The first does not diminish by sharing its flame. In fact, the more it shares, the brighter the room becomes. You are that candle now. Your awakening, your recognition, is not for you alone. It is for every soul your life will touch, often in ways you may never see or know. And here is the paradox. The moment you accept that you are chosen, you realize everyone is. Every soul carries this potential. The difference is simply who has opened enough to allow it and who is still asleep in forgetfulness. Today, you are awake enough to hear this, to feel this, to recognize this truth as your own. That is why this message has reached you. Not to inflate your sense of self, but to remind you that your life matters in ways you cannot measure. The meaning of being chosen is not about destiny written in the stars. It is about willingness lived in the present. It is saying, yes, here and now, to being a vessel of love, of awareness, of presence. And when you say that yes, not with words, but with the way you live, your life begins to align with something greater than personal desire. You become a thread in a vast tapestry, woven into the collective awakening of humanity. So what does it look like? Practically, to live as someone chosen. It looks like kindness, when it would be easier to turn away. It looks like presence when others are lost in distraction. It looks like honesty with yourself, when it would be easier to pretend. It looks like carrying the light into the ordinary, into your family, your work, your community, until the ordinary itself becomes sacred. That is the invitation before you, not to run from life, but to infuse life with awareness, not to seek endlessly for proof, but to become the proof, to stand as living evidence that awakening is real, that love is possible, that peace can be embodied. And the beauty of it all is this: you don't have to force it. You don't have to figure out how to be the light. You only have to stop covering it, to let go of the masks, the defenses, the endless striving, and simply allow yourself to be who you are. Beneath all that, an open channel for life to shine through. That, my friend, is the meaning of being chosen. Not that you are separate, but that you are connected. Not that you are greater, but that you are ready. Ready to live as a reminder that the light has always been here, waiting for us to open our eyes. 5. A new recognition of human nature. There is a moment in every true awakening when you realize that what you've been searching for has never been outside of you. We are taught to chase after enlightenment as if it were a prize at the end of a long road. Something to earn, something to achieve, something only the worthy can attain. But awakening is not about reaching for the stars. It is about remembering you are already made of starlight. The truth is, you have never been separate from eternity. You have never been cut off from the vastness of what you are. What happened is simple. You forgot. In the play of life, you put on costumes. You learned roles. You followed scripts written by family, culture, society. You forgot that behind every mask, you were the same timeless presence. Awakening is the falling away of those masks. It is not about becoming more, but about realizing you were never less. Think of a wave in the ocean. From one angle, it looks separate, its own shape, its own motion, rising and falling. But the wave is not apart from the sea. It is the sea, expressing itself for a time in a particular form. That is what you are. You are not a speck of dust lost in an indifferent universe. You are the universe itself, moving through the form of a human life. When this recognition dawns, everything changes. You stop living as though you are small and powerless, tossed around by forces beyond you. You begin to see that the same intelligence that spins galaxies is flowing in your veins. The same creative power that births suns is breathing through your lungs. And yet, this truth is not meant to inflate the ego. It humbles you. It softens you, because you see that every person you meet, every being you encounter, is also that universe in disguise. I have felt this in quiet, ordinary moments, sitting at a window, watching the wind move through the trees, and suddenly realizing that the life in those branches is not separate from the life in me, or listening to the sound of laughter and feeling that the joy echoing through another's body is the same joy that lives at the heart of existence itself. It is in these simple recognitions that the veil grows thin And you remember what has always been true: you are not in the universe. The universe is in you. For so long, we live under the illusion of separation. We believe we are a body, a mind, an individual identity, moving through a hostile world. We defend ourselves, compete with others, try to carve out meaning from the fleeting. And yet, under all that noise, a deeper truth waits. It waits patiently until you are quiet enough to feel it, until you are tired enough of the struggle to let go. Then, softly, it whispers, "You are not the role you play. You are the stage upon which it is all unfolding." This is the new recognition of human nature. Not that we are fragile creatures scraping for significance, but that we are the vast consciousness of life itself, choosing, for a while, to experience the beauty and the struggle of being human. Awakening is not the end of the human story. It is the beginning of living it with honesty, with depth, with love. Imagine walking through life knowing you are both the actor and the author of the play. You still feel the joys and the sorrows, but you no longer drown in them. You can step back, even as you step in. You can suffer without being consumed. Rejoice without clinging. Love without fear, because you know the one who watches is never touched, never broken, never less than whole. And here is the healing power of this recognition. It dissolves shame. It dissolves the nagging belief that you are not enough, that you must earn your place in existence. You begin to see that existence itself is your birthright. You are here because the universe wanted to taste life through your eyes, to touch the world with your hands, to love and be loved through your heart. What greater worth could you ask for? This realization does not make you arrogant. It makes you tender, because if you are the universe in disguise, then so is every person you meet. The stranger, the friend, the enemy, the child. To harm another is to forget yourself. To love another is to remember. Awakening, then, is not an escape from humanity. It is the deepest embrace of it. It is seeing through the illusion of smallness so you can live this human life with a kind of sacred dignity. You still pay bills, wash dishes, feel pain, but you do so with the quiet awareness that beneath it all, you are infinite. And when you live from that awareness, something extraordinary happens. Life becomes lighter. The weight of fear, of proving, of striving, begins to fall away. You no longer chase worthiness, because you know you are already whole. You no longer fear endings, because you sense the continuity beneath them. You no longer cling to beginnings, because you know everything is already held in the vastness of now. This is the gift of remembering your true nature. It does not take you out of the world. It allows you to finally be in it. Fully, freely, fearlessly. You become like the wave that knows it is the ocean rising, falling, shining, dissolving, yet always, always part of the sea. So when the veil lifts and you glimpse this truth, don't push it aside as fantasy. Don't let the mind explain it away. Let it root in you. Let it reshape the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you meet each day. For you are not a fragment seeking completion. You are the universe, whole and complete, remembering itself in the tender, temporary form of your life. 6. Joy as the compass. For much of our lives, we are told that the right path is the heavy path, that responsibility is a burden we must carry, that seriousness is proof of our virtue, that sacrifice is the measure of our worth. And so, many of us grow up believing that if a choice feels light, if it feels joyful, it must somehow be wrong, or at least not important enough. But the truth I've come to know, through trial, through error, through years of walking in circles, is this: joy is the most honest compass you will ever have. Joy does not mean endless pleasure or constant comfort. It is not about ignoring pain or pretending hardship does not exist. Joy is deeper than that. It is the quiet recognition of alignment. It is the soul's way of saying, yes, this is me. This is right. It may come in a smile you cannot suppress, in a peace that fills you when you create, when you love, when you serve in ways that resonate with your essence. That feeling, that deep joy, is not a luxury. It is guidance. I used to think the universe kept score by measuring how much I endured, how much I denied myself, how much I could sacrifice. And yes, hardship can build strength. Sacrifice can purify intention. But I began to notice something subtle when I acted from heaviness, from duty alone. The path seemed to resist me. Doors stayed closed. My body grew tired. My spirit felt drained. And when, instead, I followed the quiet tug of joy, even in small ways, things began to flow. Conversations opened. Energy returned. Life responded with ease. It's almost as if the universe is less interested in how much you can suffer and more interested in how fully you can live. Joy is not frivolous. It is feedback. It tells you where your being is in harmony with the greater current of life. When you step into what lights you up, you are not being selfish. You are aligning with the very frequency that allows you to give your best to the world. Think of a musician playing their instrument. When they play out of obligation, the notes are correct, but the song feels empty. When they play with joy, with love, with fire, the same notes become alive. Everyone listening can feel it. The difference is not in the task itself, but in the energy flowing through it. That is what joy does. It infuses life with spirit. Some may say, but I cannot always choose joy. I have responsibilities. I have duties. I cannot simply abandon them, and that is true. But joy is not about abandoning responsibility. It is about infusing responsibility with presence. It is about finding the thread of aliveness, even in the simplest of acts. Washing dishes can be a burden, or it can be a meditation. Caring for a loved one can be an obligation, or it can be an offering. The difference lies in how aligned your heart is while you do it. And joy is the signal that you are aligned. There were times I ignored this compass. Times I convinced myself that enduring something joyless was proof of my strength. And yes, I survived those times. But I did not thrive. Only when I began to trust that joy was not a distraction, but a direction did my life begin to open. The work I once dreaded became infused with creativity. The relationships I once strained to maintain began to soften into ease. Even my own body seemed to respond, healing faster, carrying less tension, when I allowed joy to lead. You see, joy is not shallow. It is sacred. It is not entertainment. It is energy. The kind of energy that connects you to the heart of the universe itself. When you feel that deep, joy, it is because you are standing in resonance with the life that made you. You are no longer fighting yourself, no longer resisting what is. You are, for that moment, fully here, fully alive, fully true. So, if you find yourself wondering, am I on the right path? Look not at how heavy the load is, but at how your heart responds. Does it open? Even in difficulty. Does it feel light? Even in effort? That is joy speaking. And joy never lies. I am not saying life will always be easy. It won't. There will be grief. There will be loss. There will be days when joy feels far away. But even then, you can trust that joy has not left you. It waits like the sun behind clouds, ready to shine, the moment you remember to look up. And when it does, when you feel that warmth again, let it guide you. Follow it, even in small steps. A walk in nature, a moment of laughter, a piece of music that stirs you. These small joys are not trivial. They are breadcrumbs leading you home. And perhaps the most healing truth of all is this: joy is not the reward at the end of the path. Joy is the path. When you follow it, you discover that life itself begins to align, not because you forced it, but because you flowed with it. The universe doesn't measure you by how much you deny yourself. It measures you by how fully you resonate with the truth of your being. And joy is the vibration of that truth. So let yourself be guided. Let joy be your compass. It will not always point to the easiest way, but it will always point to the truest. And when you live this way, you stop moving through life as if it were a duty to endure. You begin to live as if it were a song to be sung, a dance to be danced, a gift to be embraced. Because in the end, joy is not selfish. It is contagious. The more you live in it, the more it spills into the lives of others. And the light of your joy, however small it may feel, might just be the spark that helps someone else find their way. 7. Humanity's turning point. We are living in a time unlike any other. You can feel it, can't you, beneath the noise of the news? Beneath the conflicts and the confusion, something deeper is stirring. Humanity stands at a threshold, a place where two roads stretch before us. One road leads to greater unity, to a recognition of our shared essence, to a future where compassion and collaboration become the foundation of life. The other road is the old one, the road of division, of separation, of repeating cycles of fear that stretch on for generations. And here is the truth that might feel overwhelming, but is also profoundly empowering. You are part of the deciding force, not you alone, but you together with countless other souls who have reached this same moment of recognition. Each of you is a bridge between the world we have known and the world that is trying to be born. Being a bridge does not mean carrying the whole weight of humanity on your shoulders. It means living in such a way that your awareness, your presence, becomes a doorway for others. It means embodying the possibility of a new way of being, not in grand speeches, not in dramatic gestures, but in the quiet consistency of how you live. I have seen how one awakened life can change the course of many others. A single person who chooses compassion instead of anger, presence instead of distraction, forgiveness instead of resentment. Such a person becomes a mirror. Others see themselves reflected in that light, and something awakens in them. 2. This is how collective shifts happen, not all at once, not from the top down, but soul by soul, moment by moment. When you understand your role in this turning point, you no longer underestimate the impact of your daily choices. The way you speak to a stranger, the patience you show your family, the honesty you hold with yourself. All of it ripples outward. We tend to think of revolutions as loud, as visible, as movements that sweep across the world, but the most profound revolutions begin in silence, in the unseen, in the inner transformation of individuals who decide to live awake in a world still asleep. This is why your role is not to escape life, but to inhabit it more fully. You are not asked to withdraw to a mountaintop or wait for perfect circumstances. You are asked to live your awakening here, in the grocery store, in your workplace, at the dinner table, because when light shines in the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Humanity is at a crossroads because the old ways no longer serve us. You see it in the unrest, the divisions, the fear. These are signs not just of collapse but of transition. The old structures are crumbling because they cannot contain the consciousness that is emerging. And as they crumble, it is easy to feel despair, to think we are falling apart. But look closer. What feels like breaking is also the making of something new. Your role in this moment is to hold steady, to be a calm presence when others are swept into fear, to anchor in awareness when chaos demands reaction, to remind yourself and those around you that another way is possible. You are not asked to fix the whole world. You are asked to keep your corner of it lit. That light, multiplied across millions of souls, is what tips the balance of an entire species. Think of it like a dawn. At first, The sky is dark. Then, slowly, light appears on the horizon. The first rays may seem fragile, barely enough to push back the night, but as they spread, everything changes. Darkness cannot withstand the rising sun. You, and those like you, are those first rays of light, and though you may feel small, together, you signal the arrival of a new day. And yes, the path ahead is uncertain. Humanity may stumble, as it always has, but the very fact that you are here, listening, recognizing your role, is proof that the shift is underway. The universe does not send awareness where it is not needed. If you feel called to live more awake, it is because your presence matters in this time of turning. I will not pretend it is always easy. There will be days when the weight of the world presses on your chest, when doubt whispers that your light is too small. But remember, a single candle can ignite 1,000 others, and often, it is in the darkest hour that even the faintest flame is most needed. So hold your light, live your awareness, not in perfection, but in sincerity. When you fall, return. When you forget, remember. Each act of choosing presence over absence, love over fear, clarity over confusion. That is how humanity crosses the bridge. That is how we move from an age of separation into an age of unity. And when you wonder if it matters, let me assure you it does. The turning point of humanity is not somewhere out there. It is happening within you, within me, within all of us. And the role you play, however ordinary it may seem, is extraordinary in its ripple. Because the truth is, the new world does not arrive all at once. It arrives each time someone like you chooses to live awake, to live with love, to live as a bridge between what was and what can be. 8. Preparation and testing. When you look back over your life, it is easy to wonder why certain seasons had to be so heavy. The loneliness that weighed on your chest, the doubts that whispered you were not enough. The nights when silence stretched so long you thought it might never break. In the moment, those experiences felt cruel, meaningless, almost like punishment. But with time, with hindsight, you begin to see something different. They were not meaningless at all. They were preparation. They were tests of the soul, lessons from the universe, designed not to break you, but to shape you. Every challenge you endured has been part of a larger curriculum. Think of it as the training ground of your spirit. Just as muscles only grow when they are stretched and strained, your inner strength grows when life places weight upon you. Every season of pain carved resilience into your bones. Every moment of confusion sharpened your discernment. Every setback gave you the eyes to see more clearly when the moment of clarity finally arrived. The universe does not waste experiences. Even the darkest chapters serve a purpose. I have lived through times when I begged for the pain to end, not realizing that the very fire I wanted to escape was refining me. It was burning away illusions, burning away my dependence on things that could never last, leaving behind a core I could finally trust. Looking back, I see now without those fires, I would not be standing here. Without those storms, I would not have the steadiness I carry today. Think of a tree standing in the wind. A young tree bends and shakes, and in that struggle, its roots die deeper. The storms that seem to threaten its life are the very forces that teach it how to survive. Your struggles have been no different. Every storm you've faced has driven your roots deeper into the soil of your being. That is why you are still here. Not because life has been easy, but because life has prepared you. And what about the loneliness? The seasons when no one seemed to understand you? When you walked a path that felt empty of companionship? That, too, was part of the preparation. Loneliness teaches you to sit with yourself, to listen more deeply, to discover that you are never truly alone. It strips away the illusion that your worth depends on the approval of others. And in that solitude, painful as it may be, you uncover the quiet truth you are sustained by something larger than yourself. You always have been. Doubt, too, plays its role. We think doubt is the enemy of faith. But in truth, doubt is what chisels faith into something strong. Belief that has never been questioned is fragile. It breaks at the first sign of difficulty. But belief that has wrestled with doubt, belief that has faced its own shadows, and still chosen to endure, that belief becomes unshakable. Your doubts were not signs of weakness. They were the refining questions that forced you to dig deeper, to find a truth strong enough to withstand them. So when you look at the hardships of your life, do not see them as wasted years. See them as the groundwork for the person you are becoming. Every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every disappointment, they were the tests that ensured you would be strong enough to hold the awareness you are stepping into now. Because awakening is not light and bliss alone. It requires strength, clarity, humility, and those qualities are forged in the furnace of experience. I know how tempting it is to wish it had been easier, to wonder why you had to walk through so much pain. But here is the gentle truth: if the path had been smooth, you would not have grown roots deep enough to withstand the winds of awakening. The universe does not give you trials to punish you. It gives you trials to prepare you for the weight of the light. And now, perhaps for the first time, you can see the pattern. The heartbreak that once felt unbearable has given you compassion for others who suffer. The failures that once shamed you have given you wisdom that no book could teach. The loneliness that once hollowed you out has left space for the presence of something greater to fill you. Nothing has been wasted. Every fragment of your story is part of the whole. This is the meaning of preparation and testing. Not that you had to earn your place in existence, but that existence itself was shaping you, strengthening you, readying you for this very moment. You are not weak because of what you endured. You are steady because of it. You are not scarred in vain. Your scars are maps, reminders of the roads you have walked, proof that you have already survived what once felt impossible. So when life tests you again, and it will, remember this: the test is not here to destroy you. It is here to reveal you, to show you the strength you already carry, the clarity you have already earned, the light you are now able to hold. Trust that nothing you face is wasted. Trust that every step, even the painful ones, has been preparing you for the moment you are living right now. And perhaps most importantly, trust yourself. You would not be here if you were not ready. 9. Responsibility and mission. For much of our lives, we are told to search for a grand mission, some lofty calling that will prove our worth, justify our existence, or leave our mark upon the world. We imagine it must be something vast, something visible, something celebrated by many, and so we strive, we compare, we chase after purposes that always seem just out of reach. But awakening brings with it a softer, simpler truth. You do not need to find a mission. You are the mission, the very fact of your being, the presence you carry, the awareness you embody. That is the offering. You are not here to chase after some distant destiny. You are here to live fully, consciously, right where you are. This realization frees you, because suddenly, life is no longer about proving yourself worthy of a title or chasing after a dream stamped with society's approval. Instead, it is about the way you show up today, with sincerity, with kindness, with awareness. Your mission is not out there. It is here, in this breath, in this moment, in the way your presence quietly shifts the space you inhabit. Children, more than anyone, reveal this truth. Have you noticed how sensitive they are? How they absorb not just words but energies, not just lessons but atmospheres. They reflect back what surrounds them. And so, when you live in awareness, when you embody peace, when you choose presence over distraction, they inherit that frequency without you needing to say a word. This is your mission, to plant seeds of consciousness that will grow in the generations after you. Think of it as being an anchor, In a stormy sea, an anchor does not calm the waves, but it holds the vessel steady. In the same way, your awakened presence cannot erase all the chaos in the world, but it can provide stability. You become a still point in the midst of turbulence, a living example that it is possible to live awake, to live with love, even in difficult times. That steadiness is your gift. That steadiness is your mission. I used to think that purpose had to be grand, almost theatrical, but some of the most powerful missions are invisible. A quiet word of encouragement that keeps someone from giving up, a moment of compassion that heals a wound in another's heart, a steady presence that allows a child to grow up feeling safe. These are not headlines. They are not etched into monuments, but they are the seeds of a new civilization, planted in the soil of ordinary days. And here is the beauty when you live this way. You realize that responsibility and mission are not burdens, but blessings. Responsibility is not about carrying the weight of the world. It is about recognizing that your choices ripple beyond yourself. Your laughter, your forgiveness, your integrity, they all extend outward, shaping a field of energy that others walk through. You are creating atmosphere. You are cultivating frequency. And that frequency will live on long after you are gone. Imagine a future generation walking in a world where compassion is natural, where awareness is the norm, where unity is lived rather than spoken about. That world begins here, with you, not because you are doing something dramatic, but because you are embodying something essential. The children of tomorrow will carry the frequency you anchor today. They will inherit not only the earth you leave behind, but the consciousness you stabilize right now. This is why your mission is not a task to be completed, but a presence to be lived. It is not a goal with an endpoint, but a way of being that continues to ripple outward. When you recognize this, life feels lighter. You no longer chase after validation. You no longer wait for someone to declare your purpose. You simply live it, moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath. And yes, there will be days when you feel small, when you doubt that your presence makes any difference at all. But remember, the smallest candle still pushes back the dark. The quietest song still carries through the night. The gentlest act of love still changes the atmosphere of a room. Never underestimate the power of your being. Your responsibility, then, is not to strive endlessly, but to live awake, to notice when you slip back into unconscious patterns, and to return, again and again, to presence, to forgive yourself when you falter, and to begin anew, to hold the awareness that your life is not separate from the greater unfolding, but an essential part of it. You are not here by accident. You are not here to wander aimlessly, nor to wait for permission. You are here as a living expression of consciousness, as a bridge between the old and the new, as an anchor for what is possible. That is your mission. That is your responsibility. And the more you live it, not perfectly, but sincerely, the more the world around you begins to shift. So let go of the search for something distant. Stop waiting for the heavens to write your mission in the sky. Look instead at your hands, at your breath, at the presence you bring into this very moment. That is your purpose. That is your calling. You are the mission. And your life, lived with awareness, lived with love, is the gift you leave for generations to come. You are no longer the seeker. You are the answer. In the end, the truth is not hidden in some distant secret, locked away for a chosen few. It is here, right now, whispering in the rhythm of your breath, in the beating of your heart, in the stillness between thoughts. The truth is this: you have already been chosen, not because of what you have achieved, not because of what you have suffered, but because of what you are, the universe itself, awakening to its own reflection through the form of your life. When this realization takes root, the endless questions about worth and purpose begin to quiet. You no longer need to measure yourself against others. no longer need to chase approval or prove your significance. You begin to see that your value does not come from striving or from what the world grants you. It comes from your being. You are not here to become someone else. You are here to embody yourself fully, radiantly, peacefully. And perhaps the most powerful affirmation you can carry is this: I am the intelligence of the universe. I am the chosen light. Let it echo within you, not as a statement of ego, but as a remembering of truth. You are not claiming something that was not yours. You are remembering something that has always been. When you embrace this, life takes on a new dimension. You stop living only for yourself. You begin to feel how your presence ripples outward, how your choices shape not just your story, but the collective unfolding of humanity. You become a bridge between the past that has shaped you and the future waiting to be born, between the small self that suffers and the vast self that knows, between the fractured world of old and the emerging world of unity. I have learned this through pain, through loss, through nights when hope seemed distant, but the gift of those experiences was clarity, and that clarity revealed something simple yet profound. I was never meant to remain a seeker forever. Neither are you. The searching has served its purpose. Now comes the living. You are not just looking for answers. You are becoming the answer, not in grand proclamations, but in the quiet way you embody love, awareness, and presence. This, I believe, is the quiet revolution of our time. It is not happening in headlines or in the noise of politics. It is happening in hearts, in kitchens, in quiet moments of forgiveness, in the courage of choosing presence over distraction. It is happening in you, and through you, it spreads. You may not see the full extent of your influence, but that does not make it less real. Just as a stone dropped into a pond creates ripples far beyond where it fell, your awakened presence touches lives you may never know. A kind word to a stranger, a patient breath in the midst of conflict, a steady light when others falter. These are not small things. They are revolutions, seeds of a new humanity, planted one moment at a time. And so, as you walk forward from this moment, I invite you to let go of the endless striving to become, and instead, rest in the truth of what you are. Say it gently to yourself: I am the intelligence of the universe. I am the chosen light. Not to inflate your pride, but to align your being with what has always been true. Because from this moment on, you are not just surviving. You are bridging. You are embodying. You are a living testimony to the possibility that consciousness can awaken, that humanity can evolve, that love can guide the way. The quiet revolution does not ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be present. It asks you to remember again and again, even when you forget. It asks you to live as though your life itself is the answer humanity has been searching for. And when you do, you no longer walk as a seeker wandering in darkness. You walk as a beacon, a reminder, a proof that the universe has always been alive within us, waiting for this moment, waiting for you. So step into this with peace. Carry this awareness gently, like a flame that needs no force to burn. Let your life say what words cannot. I am here. I am light. I am the bridge between what was and what can be. And from this moment, may you no longer see yourself as one who searches. May you know yourself as the living answer.